What is going on? It is Wednesday, 4 o'clock, January 11th, 2023, and welcome to Streaming on Streaming. Welcome to Streaming on Streaming. If you're not familiar, if you're new to the show, this is a weekly live show right here on twitch.tv/AWS, where we talk about everything live streaming related. More specifically, we talk about building live streaming applications using Amazon Interactive Video Service. And this is our second season. We've got, I think, 6-7 episodes in the books. You can catch up on those on right here on the Twitch channel. If you scroll down, look at the past episodes. You can also check those out on YouTube, where we post all those weekly. But yeah, it's a fun show. We do a lot of fun things. We talk about live streaming. We have guests on. We have engineers. We have all kinds of other guests. And we also sometimes just open up the editor and start writing some code. And today we do have some guests. Today our guests are a little bit different than the guests we've had in the past, but let's go ahead and bring them on and we'll learn about them and get to know them. There we are. Justin Poiley and Tony Vu are my guests today. Justin works at a company called LiveLike, and LiveLike is an Amazon partner. And if I'm at any point saying anything wrong or misrepresenting or making a mistake, as always, feel free to correct me. But Amazon partner LiveLike, and Justin is the director of engineering at LiveLike. And Tony works right here with me at Twitch. And Tony works with our partners. So basically partner engineering. And Tony, I was looking at your LinkedIn a little bit earlier, and it looks like you are on a quest to work at every single tech company that begins with TWI. Is that correct? Is that accurate?
Yeah, completing the trilogy there, you know.
Twilio, Twitter, and now Twitch, right?
Yep, all three.
Perfect. So welcome, Justin, welcome, Tony. Good to have you here. Like I said, we're going to talk today about LiveLike. I'm not sure how many of our viewers are familiar with LiveLike, but let's before we get into that, I should back up a little bit. Why don't you guys tell us a little bit about yourselves? And of course, as always, chat. If you have any questions, please feel free to post them and let us know. We'll do our best to interact with you and tailor the stream to what you want to see. So, Justin, tell everybody about Justin.
Hey, everyone. Thanks, Todd, for having me. Yeah. Tony, really great to be here on here with you. My name is Justin. I'm leading up product and engineering here at LiveLike. I've been here for about 6 years, but I've been really involved in the video streaming space, video, sports, media, TV for the last 10 or so years, right? Building social networks, building video encoding pipelines. I've gone up and down the stack, ranging from transcoding stuff all the way to product management. So I've seen a little bit of this and a little bit of that, and I'm happy to talk more about that.
That's quite a kind of diverse range of background from transcoding to front ends and everything in between. I see you're a Cleveland Cavs fan. Is that right?
Brooklyn Nets. I'll lean in a bit further, but yeah.
So are you in New York? Is that where you're from?
Yeah, based out of New York. Been here the whole time.
Nice. Manhattan or Brooklyn?
Stuck to Manhattan. Lived on both sides, west side and east side. But now I'm back deep in the heart of Jersey, living in the woods now.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Nice. Very cool. Do you work remotely usually, or do you go into the office?
Most days I'm remote. I came to the office today because we have a better studio. I literally just moved, so my office is in shambles. So I came here to get in the recording studio.
Yeah, that's great. My friend of mine, I shoot some kind of on-demand videos sometimes, and a friend of mine just the other day was mentioning how jealous he is of like how neat my setup is and how clean it is. And I'm like, dude, you're just seeing this side of things. You're not seeing that side of things. The desk is a complete mess. So yeah, I can sympathize. Tony, as we said, you are the TWI tech company person, but you're much more than that. Tell us a little bit about you.
Yeah, Todd, happy to be on the show here. So my background is I've worked in software engineering for a number of years, and pivoted from software engineering to more of a partner-facing role. Mm-hmm. So previously I've been at, as you mentioned, places like Twilio, Twitter, and now Twitch. And so here at Twitch, I manage partnerships. So I work with technology partners like LiveLike to understand how we can leverage partnerships and technology these partners offer to enhance the functionality and features of Amazon IVS.
Partners are very important. I don't think a lot of people realize kind of the importance of partnering with other organizations. And it's a mutually beneficial, I think, relationship. I've not worked a lot with any kind of partners until I really came to Twitch/Amazon. My previous roles, I hadn't really worked in that space at all. But since I've joined and I talked to Anoop, Tony, your boss, Anoop, a lot at reInvent, spent some time with him, had some meetings with various partners, and it just kind of really opened my eyes to the value of that relationship and the benefit, the mutual benefit that exists. You know, there are a lot of features that can benefit developers and benefit, speaking specifically in this space, a lot of features that can benefit developers building user-generated content, live streaming applications that aren't necessarily features that we're going to build. You know what I'm saying? It's like there's a need for it, but it's not maybe within our vision or within our mission or within our charter as an organization, as a company. And that's where I think partners can fill that gap. They can kind of step in, meet that need, work with us to promote their product, as well as, you know, it kind of goes both ways. So it's really neat to me to kind of learn more about this and see the value of it. So Justin, what is LiveLike? We've said it a few times, but we haven't really defined what LiveLike is as a company, as a product, what suite of products they have. Kind of tell us if you were to put on a marketing hat, and I know you're not a marketing guy, but your marketing people are probably on the other side of the camera staring at you, kind of pointing at you right now.
I'm getting coached.
But if you were to put on the marketing hat for 1 second, what is LiveLike?
Definitely. I'll take a shot. So
Okay.
what we're trying to do here is we're an interactivity toolkit, community building toolkit that you can use to make your interactive video experiences and other experiences too, but primarily interactive video, more engaging, more interactive, more fun, more community oriented, right? We want to make these more, I hate to reuse the word interactive, but that's really what it is. We provide a whole suite of these tools ranging from polls and quizzes to chats, upcoming features like commenting, right? We provide a whole suite of these different elements you can add, mix and match in different ways to make your live video experience more fun and engaging.
Gotcha. And the company's been around quite a while, right? I mean, so disclosure, I met with your CEO, Mahir, at reInvent. We had lunch and got a chance to really learn about the kind of long history of LiveLike as a company, and kind of like a lot of startups, you know, maybe start out with one direction, kind of pivot to another direction. It sounded like that's kind of something that happened with LiveLike.
Oh, absolutely. So I've been here for about 6 years, and in a way, I've seen two different companies, right? When I first joined, we were doing live sports streaming and virtual reality, end to end, right? We would do everything from video production to app development to experience design. All that stuff was happening in-house for us. We had a whole team to do everything from setting up cameras on the field,
Wow,
all the way to submitting apps to the App Store. So everything in between was done by us. So we did that for a couple of years. A lot of really fun tech challenges there, like building out transcode pipelines for 4K video and trying to do 8K video, making that tractable to live stream to different markets, right? We were a global company. We were doing events in US, Europe, APAC, all over the place, really. So it was really a lot of fun. But what we started to notice over time was that building stuff end to end, while very cool and they were great products, it's hard to scale.
Right.
And we were also seeing that our partners were seeing like a split audience in a way. Like when we work with Fox, they would have Fox Sports VR and they would have Fox Sports app, and they had two different audiences, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what we wanted to do was take the core of LiveLike, right? This whole idea of watching together, watching in an interactive way, and bring it to the larger audience. So we took those core elements and made a developer product. So instead of building apps and delivering those to clients, we would just build the SDKs, and they could take the pieces they want and put it in their flagship app, rather than having like this kind of bifurcated, well, you have the VR experience, the interactive experience, and you have the app experience. So we wanted to help our our clients combine that essentially.
Right. And so what kind of roles have you within LiveLike? Is that where you got all that transcoding experience and kind of, you just kind of, I guess at a startup, sometimes you just kind of do it all, right? I mean, you're probably like turning up servers and stuff and like you're in your basement closet or something.
Exactly. Turning up servers and with one hand and responding to support emails in the other. There's a lot going on. But yeah, I originally joined LiveLike because of the VR challenge of like live streaming really high def video and in different formats and novel formats and novel display modes, not just on flat screens, but on stuff like I forget the word now, but like not binocular lenses or whatever it would be like. So we would try all this different stuff out. Before then, I worked at a place called Streamable, and I helped them build out their transcode infrastructure. I was their first employee. The co-founders had it. They employed, then they hired me. Really happy to be there. Learned a lot of great stuff there. So yeah, I wanted to take on the next challenge of like, okay, we've done short video hosting, we've done clip hosting. What's the next step? And LiveLike was really appealing. And then from there, I kind of developed a love for sports as a business, media and tech as a business. So LiveLike has been huge, just a lot going on. Really cool stuff for me.
So you mentioned sports a few times, and obviously here in the US and even globally, depending on the sport, but sporting events, sports streaming is, I really think it's just barely in its infancy. I mean, it's huge right now, but there's so much more potential. I mean, look at 2 weeks ago, YouTube TV won the contract for NFL Sunday Ticket. They won it away from DirecTV. So obviously DirecTV was a traditional satellite provider. YouTube TV is not that. They're a streaming company. So the entire NFL Sunday Ticket now is going to be live streamed on the internet. And, you know, obviously a company like Google has the infrastructure or has the knowledge enough to handle that challenge. But that's a huge, I mean, you're talking millions and millions of viewers. I don't even know I have no concept of how many million people watch the NFL every Sunday, but I know it's got to be a lot more than watching me stream Call of Duty on Twitch, you know, with my one person watching. But where was I going with that? So sporting events is one thing. The other thing kind of tangentially that seems to be growing and really about to explode is sports betting, gaming, you know, that kind of thing. What are you seeing? Do you have features kind of that can help with that? Is that something that you're seeing as well?
There's definitely a lot of interest in stuff like sports betting. To back it up, LiveLike's DNA is in sports. We came from sports, but our technology, like video streaming, is broadly applicable, right?
Right.
Sports is just a classic use case. But going back to your point and to our discussion earlier about partners, is people like IVS can really help with stuff like betting. When we're looking for we're looking to match customer expectations around how streams work and around latency and things like that. IVS is a great partner for delivering these really latency sensitive experiences like sports betting, right? That's a classic use case for us.
Right. So what does your stack look like? What do you have all these SDKs and we'll get into a little more about those in a bit, but you have a lot of widgets, you have a lot of features that are API driven, and what is your stack? I mean, how, and I guess what I'm getting at with that is eventually, how does LiveLike scale? If I was going to build a live streaming application with IVS and I wanted to go all in with LiveLike for interactivity, I wanted to add polls and reactions and cheer meters and all this. And let's say I get the next big thing and I've got 20 million viewers. Can LiveLike handle that? What does the infrastructure look like? Whatever you can share, of course.
Definitely. So conceptually, LiveLike is the combination of our core service layer, right? Our REST APIs, our pub sub layer, our messaging infrastructure, right, for things like chat. Mm-hmm. And then talking to that are our suites of editorial and content management tools and our SDKs, right? So the CMS and the content tools are where your team would go to come up with the polls and publish them, to moderate chat rooms. All that stuff is happening kind of in that back office area. And that's talking to the API. On the other side, you have the SDKs that are on iOS, Android, web, soon to be React Native. Those are also talking to the API, but they're on the interaction level. And those are receiving polls and they're published by the editorial team. They're coming to your device over our pub sub network or our messaging layer, or maybe a partner's messaging layer. and they're being displayed on device, right? And that's how you interact with them. Then when you vote, it goes back to LiveLike. A whole bunch of other gears turn in the background. We have a number of subsystems, right? When I vote in a poll, it might trigger our rewards engine, and you might get points for interacting with that poll. And the rewards engine then in turn triggers the leaderboard system, automatic ranking, things like that. So there's a lot of different pieces we can dive into. But this, at a very high level, there's the CMS talking to the API, there's the SDKs talking to the API. And all at the core of it is that API, that service layer that developers are talking to.
So are you pretty, sorry, Tony, did you have a question?
Yeah, I was gonna jump in. Like, Justin, that's quite a bit you guys handle, from like the infrastructure, the SDKs, the pub sub layer. There's a lot going on there. Kind of curious, like, with that service you guys offer, how long would it take for someone to add those things on their own if they weren't using LiveLike versus using LiveLike? Imagine like you guys like dramatically like reduce the time it takes to get that all going in like just a short amount of time.
For sure. I mean, just to take one of our features, right, the polling widget, all the different layers that go into that is like the publishing workflow. What it looks like for me as an operator to actually publish the poll. There needs to be a form where I type in the question, type in the options. I need to publish it. It needs to go in a database somewhere. Then it needs to get published to all the people who are watching. There could be a couple people, it could be a couple million, right? There's the scaling level there. Then there's deciding what does it look like on the client side? What is the UI like? Where does it show up? So all these different things are considered one by one. And then you take that and multiply it for polls, quizzes, predictions, leaderboards, all these different things. So you get that kind of matrix of complexity that we're trying to address.
It's like everything in programming, right? Building something is easy, but building it properly and scaling it is probably the hard part. Not that exactly. Everything building is easy, but I could build a poll widget in an hour, whether or not that's going to have push pub sub and persist to a database and broadcast to all interested parties. That's another story. That's the difficult part, right?
Exactly. Now we're getting the details.
Right. I imagine you all have a lot of microservices. Is that kind of how you work things, or what's your kind of code? Let's talk about the dirty stuff.
Sure. All right. So it's kind of evolved over time, right? So we're a Django shop at heart. We've done multiple generations of our services in Django.
Nice.
Inspired by the blog posts of people like Instagram used to be there, Pinterest for another one, right? They have some really, really amazing content on scaling Django. Things like optimizing things by turning off the garbage collector and killing the server instead. Yeah. Like, don't even bother with it. Just turn off the garbage collector and kill the process after a couple requests. That'll give you 10% throughput right there. So that's really cool. And then eventually we hit a wall of just doing things for vanilla Django, right? Doing the vanilla Django, eventually we were hitting different constraints. And then we started looking into other options, right? Where we saw a lot of the performance degradation was in user requests for interacting with our widgets. Again, to go back to polls, the typical workflow is live stream is going on. I come up with a question, I type it out, send it. Everyone who's watching receives it, and they all vote on it all at once. So we just get this huge influx of requests all happening all at the same time. Right. So we basically have like a very spiky traffic pattern in that. So we need to come up with a way to basically handle that really big influx of requests. So we started looking at other microservices or microservice adjacent things. And we ended up settling on a thing called OpenResty, which is basically like a package of Nginx and Lua. So we started moving these really high velocity write operations into Nginx and Lua and out of Django.
Interesting. What, if you can share, I'm curious, what kind of database do you use on the back end? What databases? I'm sure there's probably more than one.
Yes. So our canonical database is AWS Aurora Postgres flavor. So most things ultimately end up in Aurora for long-term persistence. We have some holding areas, right? Some Volta storage, like Elasticache. Sure. A lot of your early interactions will go into Elasticache. We'll hold on to them, but they'll eventually make it back into Postgres at some point.
Gotcha. Any NoSQL, any key value document stores?
Yep. So inside Elasticache, we're running Redis.
Gotcha.
Go
ahead, Tony.
I was gonna say and Justin, going back to what you said earlier, you're creating a poll for like a live sports event, for example. You have like hundreds of thousands of millions of users interacting with it. You guys basically take care of that complexity and that scale. Now, if I was a developer in my basement or garage and I could build a widget like like Todd said, but then If I was for the developers and folks in the audience that want to create interactivity for the live streaming experiences that have like thousands to hundreds of thousands of people viewing and clicking these polls, I imagine like that's no small feat to accomplish. So like, if they want to do it themselves, I imagine it could take like months for them to do like a LiveLike sort of implementation at scales, right?
Yeah, I mean, to your point, there's a lot of things at that scale that we start to think about. Just accepting the poll votes might have been one thing, right? Like make a request, we get it, we store it somewhere. That is something already rife with challenges, right? There's resource contention, there's straight up capacity concurrency limits, right? At some point you run out of actual physical bandwidth, like you just need more servers to support all the traffic coming in. But then there's other things that need to be considered too that we ran into is like, if things need to be triggered by a poll vote, like earning rewards, that's another thing we had to worry about. Like if I vote in a poll and get 10 points, we can't throw that in a queue and then give you the points in 2 hours when the queue is, if it finally gets to the queue, we have to find a way to process it kind of online. And that's kind of a lot of the scaling challenges came in.
Interesting. Are you mostly AWS shop as far as your infrastructure?
Yes, almost exclusively. We have a little bit on Heroku, but I would say like 95% of our infra is AWS.
And how do you handle deployments? Do you use CloudFront? Do you use Terraform? What does your build pipeline look like? All of the above.
So, all the above, exactly. So we all of our actual infrastructure provisioning is handled by Terraform. Deployments are handled by some Bitbucket pipelines. We use Bitbucket internally. We do have a GitHub where we keep our sample code. So if you want to like study how like you might do an IVS integration, we have a GitHub repo for that. So all of our actual work happens on Bitbucket, and then you could browse our stuff on GitHub. Regarding the actual other AWS services, you guessed it, CloudFront right at the edge, right? A lot of our traffic coming in, especially read-heavy traffic, never makes it to our actual servers. It's just served by CloudFront directly. We found the best way to scale Django is to not let requests hit Django to begin with. Just don't even let it get there.
Right.
So things like widget history, old chat messages, those are coming right from CloudFront.
And that's the best way to do it. I mean, globally distributed, it's wherever you're at in the world, you're going to have no problems with that. So, there was something, you said something and it triggered a question and I can't remember what it was now. Darn it. Anyways, what was it?
That happened to me too. It just slipped for a second.
Sorry, am I talking too fast?
No, not at all. It's it's trying to keep an eye on the chat and looking at your notes and trying to listen. Most importantly, listen. It could be a little tricky at times. It's the first episode of the year. We're kind of working our way up to all that good stuff. So we do have a question here. So let me go ahead and highlight that. Hey, Scarpe Diem says, "Hey Justin, what technical skills, capabilities are needed to successfully use LiveLike? What if I'm not super technical?" That's a good question. You wanna tackle that one?
Sure. So we are a developer tool, but we know that there's a number of different ways you can integrate LiveLike. And if you've integrated something like a YouTube embed or a Google Analytics embed, we have copy and paste embed codes you can put onto your websites. So if you want to use our web tools and you want to embed a chat room in your app, you could go into our CMS, copy the chat room embed code, pop it in there. Of course, it might have some pre-built UI. Well, we have a certain theme that we use out of the box.
Mm-hmm.
So it'll look a certain way, but at least you'll kind of go for that copy and paste workflow and you'll have something working. We have similar things for polls and quizzes. So that's a really easy way to start if you want that interactive layer right at the gate. And then once you kind of peel back the onion, you can swap in your own templates. You can use some CSS to customize the ways it looks. And then you can, from there, kind of dive into the APIs to really customize how it looks. So there's a gradient.
Yeah, so essentially you could go into the dashboard, you could use the UI, make a form, make a poll, go to the form, make a poll, hit copy embed code, paste it in your page, and be good to go. And
exactly.
Going further from that, which we're going to take a look at in a few minutes here, get down and dirty with the API and, use the SDKs and all that good stuff. So very cool. Thank you for that question, Scarpe Diem. Appreciate it. Scarpe Diem says, awesome. Thanks. So looking at my notes here. Oh, there is a good one that a couple things actually I wanted to ask you about before we kind of dive in and start looking at some code and the dashboard and all that good stuff. One is, we talked about sports a few times. I saw something really cool, and I just noticed it today because I've played around with it a little bit, but I didn't notice this before. What is spoiler prevention? I know what it is, but I want to hear you tell everybody what spoiler prevention. Now that I've read the docs, I know what it is, but it's a really cool feature. Tell people about spoiler prevention.
Got it. So spoiler prevention is one of our earliest features. What spoiler prevention does is make sure that I don't spoil what's happening inside a live stream for you, inside a video for you. How that works is, instead of making sure everyone sees everything at the same time, we make sure you see my reaction to it when you see the same thing I saw. So we might actually be a couple seconds apart in the stream,
right,
or maybe sort of watching 10 minutes after I did. What happens if I send a chat message or publish a widget, it'll be attached to that frame, right? And then 5 minutes later, or wherever you are in the stream, when you see that same frame, then you'll see my reaction. So we don't see it at the same time, but we can kind of correlate our interactions with the frames in the stream or the time codes in the stream. And
I think that's brilliant. It's kind of a double-edged sword because on one hand, it's less live, per se than, but I don't know. It's hard to say both ways, but I do know, like, I'm going to ask you, can you implement that on my mobile device so that my friends don't text message me and spoil the next play when I'm watching a football game? Because
if we could do an integration with your preferred messenger, yeah, we could definitely make that.
Nice. That's such a cool feature. I think that is, so you have LiveLike chat, and obviously Amazon has Amazon IVS chat, but to me, there's different reasons you choose different tools, right? I mean, if I have integration with LiveLike and I'm working on widgets, maybe you want to go with LiveLike chat as opposed to IVS chat. It sounds like that's another benefit of something that could be, and actually, now I'm thinking I might have to write a blog post on how you could do this with IVS chat, because I get the concept and it makes perfect sense, but you just have to kind of publish a timestamp on a frame of that video with a metadata, event, and coordinate the display of your chat based on that timestamp. It's basically similar to replaying chat with a VOD, but it's the same concept with a live stream. So very cool.
Exactly.
What about quests? What a do y'all ever see that video? It's really old. ... If not, go to YouTube and look up ... DOT, like spell it out.
Okay.
It's totally, the word quests reminds me of, it's totally nerdy and it's really old, and it's like showing my internet age here because it's from like 2010 or something, but the word quests triggered that, and you'll understand if you watch the video. But
yes, I know what I'll be watching tonight.
What's that?
Yes, I know what I'll be watching this evening.
It's short, but it's funny. It's basically a kid wrote a review of a game, and the game was like a total like troll game. It was like, I think the game was called Press Spacebar to Win. Like the entire point of the game was you only press the spacebar, and like.
I remember like this generation of games, like you have to burn the rope and all that.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
And this forum, I think it's Newsground. This forum like trolled, basically kind of said, oh, this is the greatest game ever, and everybody should play this game. So everybody was in on the joke except for this kid, and he didn't kind of realize that it was kind of the joke was, yeah, it's not a great game, but it's fun to kind of play. This is the stuff we did on the internet 10 years ago. So this kid wrote a really angry review about the game, but it was completely full of like terrible misspellings. And the guy who does this video reads it in like this booming like announcer man voice, and he's just like, but he's pronouncing every misspelling just as they are spelled. I don't know. Maybe it's only funny to me, but I think it's pretty funny. Check it out. It's like 2 minutes long, so I don't know
how I didn't see it. I was so immersed at that point.
Yeah, I know, right? So quests. What about quests? What are quests?
So quests are like our most recent way to distribute points and rewards to users. So LiveLike at its core has a whole rewards engine for distributing points and different denominations of points, right? It's think of it like an if this then that, or Zapier. It's just a rules engine, right?
Yeah.
Where you can register actions. Then when actions happen, you tell us who did it and where, and then you can attach kind of if then statements like, if I vote on a poll, you get 10 points. If I get a quiz question correct, you get 20 gems. And LiveLike has a whole library of like built-in actions that we recognize from like widgets and things like that. But you can also provide your own custom actions, right?
Mm-hmm.
They could come from your integration or from partner integrations, right? Like we could do actions for IVS plays, right? I play a video that's an action in our system, then we can attach rewards to that. Or if I am building, I don't know, a class, a video class, right?
Yeah.
A fitness class. I can register an action for attended class, right? So this is kind of where that started, is the idea of actions and rewards for actions. But it's a very cyclical thing, right? Every time I did something, I get points for it. So I did it once, did it 10 times. That's kind of we don't differentiate, right? We want to encourage that repeated behavior. So we kind of took that to the next level and we started adding more rules around it. Like we want to give rewards for completing one step. Not one step, but one series of steps, right? So think of like an onboarding journey.
Yeah.
Think of like a funnel you want to optimize.
Yeah.
I need you to sign up, upload a profile picture, and make your first post. Those are like 3 different steps you have to do. So we want to let you break those down into tasks. And every time you complete a task, you make progress towards your quest. And when you complete that larger quest, so I've created my account, I've uploaded my picture, made my first post, done my first stream, whatever you want people to do to learn the product and be onboarded, then they'll get rewards for that. And once they get rewards, they can do that quest again. So you can kind of you can use the quest to kind of break down these journeys or funnels in your app and kind of increase conversion on those funnels.
Interesting. So I'm going to put on my little marketing hat and kind of make a statement here. It sounds to me like, and I'm not saying this to like shill or anything, but like legit, it sounds like it's not just like interactivity. It's really about like community building on top of the interactivity. Like that's a whole kind of level above just like a widget that you're talking about there. I mean, you're talking about funnels and, multi-step processes, and that can all be kind of managed via like API and that kind of thing. So if I'm building my app and I want to create this process, I can trigger that action via, whenever they complete this first live stream, I can have an event bridge handler that fires a call to your API and logs that. Is that possible?
Yeah, that's like a great use case. Exactly.
Very cool.
Awesome.
Very cool.
And you can also view, is there a way to view the results, Justin? Like, I know polls is one thing, but once someone completes a quest or a part of a quest, is there a way to view that through the dashboard or on the back end?
Mm-hmm. So we provide a data analytics dashboard and also APIs. We can pull that data out as well. For each quest, we can tell you how many people are on that quest, how many people have completed it. And then inside the integration, when you actually interact with the quest system, whenever you make a call to make progress, we'll give you back the results of like, okay, you've completed 2 out of 5 tasks, you've completed 30% of this task, and you can kind of show the feedback to user however you want. Maybe you want to show it as a pop-up, maybe you want to do an animation. We don't provide the animations out of the box, but we give you the data points for you to kind of incorporate in your experience.
Very cool. We have one follow-up question here. I'll get to that in just a second. If you're just joining us, welcome to Streaming on Streaming. Joining me today is Justin Poiley from LiveLike, Amazon partner, as well as Tony Vu, who works here at Twitch with myself in partner engineering. And we are talking about LiveLike and using LiveLike to add interactivity to your Amazon interactive video service live streams. We're going to ask, we're going to address this question, then we're going to jump in and actually kind of look at a demonstration of using LiveLike with IVS. So I'll tee that up, and then I'll do a little bit of transition as you answer that question into my demo, and we'll go on from there. So Scarpe DM says, follow up for Justin part 2, 2-part question. How is LiveLike priced? And what are some of the ways that LiveLike interactivity features can be used to help me monetize my live streams? That's an interesting question that we haven't touched on yet. We've talked about reward systems and that, but how can you monetize a live stream with LiveLike? Is it even possible?
Yes, it's possible. So I'll answer in 2 parts. The first one is our typical pricing model is a combination of license fee plus usage fee. So there's a base license cost. And then there's also a metered billing aspect for active users. So we bill per MAU. An active user is just someone who connects to the LiveLike service and does something, right? Receives a chat message, sends a widget, whatever they might do. In regards to monetization, what we help you do we have a couple different ways, right? We have sponsor placements inside widgets, inside chat rooms. So you can attach like a logo to a poll or a banner to a chat room. And then we can also be able to track things like impressions and click-throughs and stuff like that and send it back to you in our analytics packet. We have also seen people do integrations into like shopping workflows. So we have this widget called the alert widget, and it's basically a CTA as a service. You give it some copy, an image, and then a link, and then that link will bring you to a web shop or a purchase flow or your Shopify checkout button or whatever you want to do. We've seen it happen that way. So people build like shoppable experiences and that kind of flow. So there's a couple options, and they're not limited to those. Those are just the two to come to mind immediately.
Sure. Very cool.
Yes.
All right. I've pulled up my browser here. I'm not sure if y'all can see that. You can't see that, can you? If you open up the Twitch stream in another tab, you'll be able to see that. But all good. If you have any questions or wonder what I'm looking at, I'll try to do my best to make sure you guys know what I'm looking at. So right now I have pulled up, actually, let me try and see if I can share it with you directly here. That should work. 1 second. There we go. All right. So I'm sharing that with you there. Can y'all see my screen now?
Yep, came up nicely.
Excellent. Perfect. So I'm in the LiveLike dashboard, and right now I'm at the kind of the home page, the landing page for that. And what we have here are programs. At first I was a little confused about programs. So quickly, Justin, what is a program? Is this intended for a one-time event, like a sporting event, or is this something that could be, I could set up a single program for every channel in my my application, all my users? Like, let's say we're talking about Twitch. Every Twitch user has a single program that's just kind of an unbounded, never-ending thing. Is that a valid way to handle that?
Yeah, that's valid.
Okay.
So programs are essentially a way for you to map your content to LiveLike content. A program might represent a Twitch channel, might represent a sports match, might represent a fitness class. We want to help you map your content ecosystem to LiveLike, and then so that whenever you publish a poll, it only goes to one area, right? So if I publish my poll to my channel, I want to go to that channel, not other channels. So that's really how we did it. And the name program is just a vestigial holdover from like broadcast jargon.
Right. I mean, technically it makes sense, but could slightly confuse me at first. I'm like, okay, is this something I can only use for an hour, like a TV program, or is this something that I could use forever? Cool. So, I mean, I imagine using the API, creating a program whenever I have a new user sign up. I'm creating an IVS channel for them. I'm gathering their stream key and everything, and I'm integrated with LiveLike, and I'm going to store that program ID along their user profile. Makes sense to me. Cool. So I've clicked into this demo program that I created here, and the first thing I see here is some options to create content. So as we were talking about earlier, this is basically a web-based way for me to, let's say I wanted to do that alert that you were talking about. I can create an alert and give it some body text, an image URL, a click URL. I imagine that's the URL that, like you said, a click-through action, basically. The interactivity duration, all this kind of good thing, and then the sponsors. And then I can either add it to a queue or I can publish it now. So, or I could schedule that for publishing. Is that right?
Exactly.
Okay. So let's say I do that and I schedule it. This widget is now at some point able to be added to my application, right? And
Yes.
actually, if I did I not click that? What did I do wrong here? Actually, let me go back there because I do want to show something along with that. So I'll create another one. And let's just say publish now. Okay, cool. So I have this alert, and if I go down here, I just wanted to kind of highlight that embed code. So essentially, this is that code we were talking about earlier. Obviously, you need the JavaScript SDK to be included on the page for it to understand what this embed code means and how it works. But essentially, this is that embed code that I could just copy and paste directly into my page, and without any code whatsoever, be up and running with an alert on my live stream. Correct?
Precisely.
Perfect. So we also have text polls, image polls, text quizzes, all kinds of amazing things, predictions, cheer meters. They're kind of cool. Basically kind of who's going to win this game, Georgia or TCU. That was a close game. Did you guys watch that game?
No, I didn't watch.
That one.
65-7. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, almost had him.
Yeah, for a national championship, was not a very competitive event here. So all these kind of things in this dashboard that I can do as a developer, it's cool that these exist, but my first thought is like, how do I do this with code? So that's what I did. I went in and I decided to build a demo. So I want to show you first kind of how it works and making sure that the live stream can see that. Cool. Looks like that's good. So I have this broadcast and playback demo. What we have here is a canvas element on the screen using the Amazon IVS web broadcast SDK. And what we're going to do is we're going to broadcast to an IVS channel. And we're not going to look at all the code involved in doing that. We've kind of looked at some of that in the past. I have tons of blog posts that can help you get started with that. And it's kind of tangential anyways. So I just wanted to kind of demonstrate the LiveLike integration here. So I have the web broadcast SDK, some buttons across the bottom here, a little drop down if I wanted to change my camera and my microphone. Next to it over here, we have the chat. So if I refresh the page just to make sure that we've got a connection, and I've got my IVS chat over here. So I'm using IVS chat here. We could also use LiveLike chat using I guess that's probably not, right? I mean, I was going to say that would be a good use case for not that the dashboard is bad. I'm not trying to imply that, but if you wanted a unique chat room for every user, you're probably going to do that programmatically as well, right? Via the SDK or API.
Exactly. Yeah, you provision the chat when somebody click the new chat button.
Gotcha. Then we have the playback on this side of things. I haven't started broadcasting yet. I can do that by clicking broadcast. And if we come over here to the playback side of things, and we say mute first of all, so we don't get that feedback. So if we say hi here, I think my connection timed out because I've had that tab open for a couple hours, so my token probably expired. So we'll say hi. All right, we've got chat back and forth between a broadcaster and a viewer. So here's my playback again, just as a reminder, and here's my broadcast side of things. So what I thought would be cool, just to kind of figure out how to use these things, is to do that text poll widget from LiveLike. So instead of using the dashboard to create it, how awesome is LiveLike and IVS? Awesome. Really awesome. So I just have a simple text poll. We have a question, we have a few options, and we have 3 options. And then I click publish poll. And if I come back to the playback side of things, we can see immediately that poll has kind of appeared. We can make our voting choice. If we come back to the actually just let that time out just to kind of show you what that looks like. So we can actually change our vote within the time. So we have this progress bar, this little white progress bar across the top that's running a timer, and we can change our vote. But once that timer ends, the poll is closed, no longer accepting any votes. It shows us the results. Since I'm the only one that voted, you can't see that. But then after a configured delay, that widget goes away. So if we come over here and view poll results, we can see the result of our poll, display that for our broadcaster. So it's just a really powerful and unique way of, and it's a small thing. There's so many more things you could do, but just to kind of prove the concept and see how it works, how easy it was to integrate, and just how easy it was to add a piece of interactive content without having, again, like we said earlier, without having to write that from scratch, without having to worry about the infrastructure involved in publishing, because that's all real time. I mean, those votes are real time. Those results are real time. The the widget appears in real time. I didn't have to do anything but publish that widget and put a slot on the page, a template, a component on the page, and it appeared when I needed it to. We have control over that. We can, if we want to manually manage the appearance of that, we could do that. But it just really kind of speaks to the power of LiveLike and adding interactive features, cheer meters again, all these sorts of things that may not be applicable for, I don't know, I don't want to discount any industry. You know, I don't want to say that it's not applicable for anything, because LiveLike would probably kill me if I said that. But I mean, not every application needs a cheer meter. You know what I mean? I mean, let's be honest.
Exactly. And that's why we provide the library, right?
Right. And that's why, you know, we're not building these things as Amazon IVS, because we want to go for the broad appeal and the features that really make the most impact and matter. But it's just awesome. So let's look. We have 13 minutes. Let's look at the code involved in doing that. So I have this, actually it's an Express application on the back end. And this is my JavaScript for the broadcast side of things. So the first thing I do here is, well, I store the token. So if you start working and you look at the docs, you want to make sure that you kind of reuse your tokens whenever possible, because that's how what you were talking about earlier, the multi-user, they're all measured on tokens, correct?
That's right, yes. Every token represents a profile represents a user.
So you want to make sure you're reusing those, not creating, and I probably created like 50 of them when I was testing things, but didn't before I realized that myself. Always read the docs first. But so you store your token in some secure place. I'm using local storage. Probably not the best place to put it. You probably want to keep that in a database, but again, along with your program ID and things like that. So first thing I need to do, well, the first thing I need to do is include the SDK on my page. So I have a link to the CDN for the engagement SDK for LiveLike. And at that point, now I have access to all the LiveLike SDK features in my front-end application. So here I'm getting that profile, passing the client's ID, which is something you can get from the dashboard, right?
Exactly, just an OAuth 2 client ID.
Okay. Pass that access token. If it doesn't exist, I just pass it without the access token and it'll generate the new one. I store that. And the next thing that we do here in my demo, so like I said, instead of using I could have simply created something in the dashboard, stored that ID and reused that ID, and actually, you know, have a pre-configured list of polls, and that's valid. I mean, you don't always need a completely dynamic poll. You may have a group of questions that you're very commonly asked, and you want to just solicit feedback at different times. That's completely valid. Nothing wrong with that. I'm such a stickler though for doing things dynamically, probably to the opposite extreme, that I wanted to play with doing it with the with the API. So I have that modal dialog. I have the questions. I get all the options from the DOM based on the class, and then I make a request, a post request to this endpoint. Basically, it's a post request. I have a set of headers that I kind of set into an object up here, just to make it easy to reuse. Where is it? There it is. So it's just an accept header and a content type header. And back to my page.
And Justin, this is for people that want to do on mobile. Do you guys have mobile SDKs available?
We do. So we have SDKs for iOS and Android, as well as our web SDK. And we're actually just releasing an early version of our React Native SDK too. Supporting chat out of the gate, widgets are next. But yeah, if you're on React Native, you can use it there.
So that's available today, the React Native?
It is in the package repository. So if you're listening now, you got some early release access. We haven't really done the marketing push, but you can find it if you look for it.
Nice. So I make a post to create that poll, and essentially the only thing I need to do is pass it the program ID, the question, and the options. So I can just dynamically create this poll, and the next thing I do, and the reason I do this is in talking to Justin and the other Justin at LiveLike, you have to publish a poll if you want it to be pushed through that kind of automatic pop-up mode is what it's called, and automatically appear in on my viewer side. I don't have to publish it if I wanted to manually kind of use the SDK to manually show that widget. I could do that via timed metadata if I wanted to, for example, with IVS. But just to essentially make the post request, create the poll, make a update request to publish the poll. And once that happens, on the player side of things, the only thing I have here is this LiveLike widgets component that has the program ID and again the mode of pop-up. That means it's automatically going to appear, and that's it. That's all it takes. I mean, it's really, to me, very simple. I have no complaints with the implementation. I had no. The other thing I do have here is actually another thing I have here is the list polls, which is essentially just a way to get that drop down of all my active polls as a broadcaster. And then once I make that request, I have all the votes. Can you do vote results in real time? Is there a way to do that, Justin? On the non-poll side of things, is there like just a widget that can display results and then like on an admin side?
Yeah, definitely. So in addition to the REST API, we have a PubSub topic that we're periodically publishing summary results. So every couple seconds, you get a new payload saying, "Hey, this vote has this option has 10 votes. This one has 15." A couple of seconds later, you'll see this one has 10 votes and 20 votes. Gotcha. So it'll kind of update over time.
Very cool. We have a question from Garages. Question: how does LiveLike handle users' authentication tokens? Do we have to store a LiveLike token on the user's devices? Do we have to store them in our own device, our own database? What are your thoughts, kind of best practice-wise, on that? Do you have any?
So there's two ways. Ultimately, we're looking for an access token that represents a profile. You can either generate an access token on the client side, then store it with your user records, or you can create a token server to server using your client secret. So every application on LiveLike side is just an OAuth 2 app, and there's a client ID and a client secret. You can generate a token, sign it with your client secret, and then include your user ID and pass that along, and we'll take that too. So there's two ways to go about it. The larger point is that we know the people we work with have their own user systems. They have their own logins, their own accounts, entitlement management, all that stuff is happening in their systems. So LiveLike is just a layer on top of that. In the same way you might have an analytics tool that forms a profile around your existing user records. Then you make the associations in your systems from your system to the analytics tool. Same way in LiveLike, you make the associations from your system to LiveLike.
Absolutely, sure. And I should also mention, sorry, Tony, the token is required for using the SDK. My API calls here that I was using via the REST API is actually using a API token. So, and there's a couple different ways you can go about doing that, but this is more of a kind of general application level token that is used for management operations, as opposed to the SDK, which is very personal, related to the user's profile, right? So like voting on a poll, clicking on an action, claiming rewards. These are very specific to a user, which those require that user-based token.
Exactly. Yeah, okay. Good distinction.
Tony, did you have something?
Oh, I was going to say, no, I was saying this is really cool stuff. And the token-wise, you have application level token, user tokens. What's the, how many of these tokens can I create at a time? What's the expiration? What's the best practices there?
So when you create a token yourself, server side, it's just in JWT format. So you can provide an expires at claim in there, and we'll honor that. If we create tokens on our side, the API keys by themselves don't expire, so you can delete those as you want. You can manage those life cycles yourself.
Gotcha.
Cool.
I do have a question for you, and I hate to do this in public. Maybe I should do it offline, but I was working with the API Explorer that you have here. This little basically gives you a way to test out these methods here, and it didn't seem to work for me. Am I doing something wrong here? Like, so I'm logged in, right? And let me get my client ID. I should do that off screen. Let me do that off screen. second. All right. I need some kind of elevator music at this point.
I would expect it to work. We manage documentation expecting it to happen. But demo curse might strike. But yeah, generally you can expect it to happen. If it's not working, we'll look into it. And
so I guess the question would be, would I expect it to work just by being logged in? Or is there like some, because I don't see anywhere to like plug in an actual like API token or anything here, right? So like, let me paste in my client ID and wait a minute. Is there a way to try it right in the browser? Yeah, right? Try it. Oh, and it worked.
Oh, there you go.
Look at that. I was doing something wrong. That makes me happy.
No, you're probably looking at a different endpoint.
I'll touch base with you offline on that. What's that, Tony?
I was saying I remember I played around the Apex board before, and I really appreciate that.
Yeah, it's a cool feature. I mean, it's a really cool feature. And the nice thing is you have this, language specific example that you can just kind of copy and paste right from here directly into your app. Never copy and paste without obviously making sure you know what the code is doing and all that good stuff. But it's a nice feature to have.
Of course, it's there for inspiration.
Inspiration. That's a good one. I like that. Well, we've got 3 minutes left here. I think we covered actually everything that I had hoped to cover. Is there anything in these last 3 minutes y'all want to plug or make sure that we mention or any of that good stuff? Let's start with you, Tony.
Yeah, I mean, Justin, like what's next for LiveLike? I know you mentioned other widgets or things you can share on the behind the curtain for us.
Yeah, what's coming soon?
Yeah.
Okay, definitely. So one thing we're looking at is more community building tools. And probably the next feature you'll see launched from us is what we call comments as a service. So we have chat, right? We have real-time discussions, synchronous discussions that work really well over live video. But now we want to kind of open that up to async discussions around more evergreen content, like blog posts or something like that. So we are launching comments as a service. Similarly,
will it support threads?
Yes.
Very cool.
It's a big one for us.
Cool.
Yeah. You can control the thread depth too. So if you want to enable like a Facebook style or Slack style one post and then one level of replies, that's doable.
Or you could do like a Reddit tree of comments from here to infinity.
Go full Reddit style, just deep as you want to go.
Very cool.
Very nice. And what's the if someone's interested, is there a way to try it out quickly? What do you recommend there, Justin?
So we're in preview mode for that. If you want to try it out, just send us an email. Send me Justin at LiveLike or support at LiveLike or contact at LiveLike is probably the best address. It'll put you in touch with our client team. Then we can get you set up.
What about just in general, overall, I want to start building LiveLike widgets. Where should I go to get started? Is there like a trial account where I can get a certain amount of free playtime to kind of make sure it fits my needs?
So we don't have an open sign up yet, but you can reach out to contact at LiveLike. Very white glove service. We'll
I mean, just for any LiveLike at all. I mean, just like anything, there's no open kind of.
So you could download the SDKs. Those are on NPM. But to get a client ID, to get an API key, you would need to talk to somebody.
Gotcha. Very cool. Well, very much appreciate you both joining me. Thank you, everyone in the chat, for your questions and interactions. Looking forward to learning more about where LiveLike is headed. And Tony, always great to see you and good to chat with you. Thank you, everyone. Appreciate it. And we'll see you next time.
Thanks, Todd. Tony.
Awesome. Thank you, Todd. Thank you, Justin.
All right. See ya.